So yesterday we've looked at your system facts. So system facts are simply your variables. Okay, so information about your remote machines, we call that as your system facts. So we looked at how you can get the system facts and what are the various information you have in your system facts. Post that, we looked at your dry run. So dry run can be used whenever you want to test your playbook without executing the playbook on the remote machines. If you want to test it out to see what it is doing, whether it is doing everything that you want, if you want to validate that, we can make use of your dry run for that. And then post that, we looked at your lookups. So lookups can be used when you want to read the data out of your playbooks. For example, variables. So let's say you have the values for your variables you have stored in a separate file. Now you want to read the data from that file. Now that's where we can make use of your lookups, and that is where we had stopped yesterday. I hope no one has any questions about it. Okay, I'm just so I had stopped and started the server, so the IP address has changed. So I'm gonna just quickly check if I'm able to connect to the machines or not. Okay, let me check my security. Looks good. Connection failed. Connection timed out. So all looks fine. Keypad is fine. Okay, let me try this once again. Okay. Okay, so it was a new machine, so that's why it took some time, but okay, so now we are able to ping. The next thing we are going to look at is your asynchronous and polling. So we have something known as your asynchronous and polling. Now, asynchronous and polling can be used when, see, by default, what happens is when we execute a playbook. Okay, for example, here, let's say we have this particular playbook, and let's connect to the remote machine once. And we will connect to this machine here. Okay, is it 212? Yeah, that's 212. It's the IP. That's the PEM, and that's Ubuntu. So Ubuntu at IP. So my Ansible is able to connect. That's a little weird. There seems some issue with this machine. I also received an email from Amazon on this particular machine. Amazon thinks someone is trying to hack into that machine, and that's why they have enabled. So remember, yesterday also we were having an issue with that. So basically, Amazon thinks because we're using Ansible to connect to the machine, Ansible is thinking, sorry, Amazon is thinking someone is attacking my machine, and they're trying to connect to the machine illegally, and that's the reason I'm thinking why the connection to that machine is not working. So let's use a new machine and see if that will work for our case, because obviously this is not working. So that's the new machine I've launched. Let's give it a minute. Okay. Okay. And let me just update that in the inventory file as well. Save this and let's quickly check if you're able to connect to the machine, and that should be fine. Okay. Now, before I execute the playbook, let's run this command. Okay. So watch -n1 who. So basically what I'm telling here is watch every 1 second who is connecting to this machine. So this will show us in real time. So this is my local machine. Okay. So from the local machine, we have connected as a Ubuntu user. So this is showing in real time. Now let me execute this playbook. Now what will happen is this machine will open a connection to this machine. So you see this IP 18.206.175.206, 1875, sorry, 206, 175, 206. So what happened here was during the execution of the playbook, the Ansible machine will open a connection to the remote machine, and the connection will stay open until the playbook completes. So in this case, okay, why is the error? Because I have to update the machine once. Let me do this quickly. Hold on. All -m command, and I will say update. Okay. Now let me run this once again, and you will see here that the connection. Okay, see here the connection is open, and this connection will stay open until the playbook completes. Now that can be a security risk when having a connection opened. There are chances where someone may try hacking into your machine. Okay, so by default, tasks in playbooks block, meaning the connection to the remote machines are blocked. All right, it stays open, meaning the connection stays open until the task is completed. Okay, on each of these. Now this may not always be desirable, or you may be running operations that take longer than the SSH timeout. So one scenario is obviously the connection staying open, and the other scenario is, let's say a task takes 1 hour to complete and you have a timeout of 30 minutes. So your Ansible playbook will fail with timeout issues. All right. So to avoid these blocking issues or the timeout issues, we can make use of your asynchronous mode to run all of your tasks at once and then poll until they are done. So what we can do here is we can tell playbook to run these tasks asynchronously. So what will happen? It will open the connection, then close it immediately. The connection won't stay open, but the playbook will keep on running in the background. And then we will do a poll, like, go and keep on checking whether the task has completed or not. That way, the connection blocking is resolved and also timeout issues can be resolved. Does that make sense?
Yes, Ravi, got it.
Yes. So this is how you do async and you can set your time. So basically async here can be used to, okay, for this task, I'm giving 30 seconds to complete. You're setting a timeout. So let's create a new playbook. And hosts is set to all. We won't use any variables. We'll just go to tasks and then we'll say this task should complete in 10 seconds. Okay. And then we are going to run a command. The command would be here, this one, sleep. Let's say 20. So I'm telling the machine sleep for 20 seconds. Basically, that's what I'm doing. But the condition here, you see, it should complete in 10 seconds. Now I can use this async. So let's say if I set this to 10 seconds, what I'm telling here is this task should complete in 10 seconds. So let's run this here. So Ansible all -i hosts and then the playbook. So by default, this will fail. So now here the task whatever said that it should complete in 10 seconds. The command I've given is sleep 20, but async I've set it as 10 seconds. So what will happen here is my async, it's a timer. Okay, so now you can see here async task did not complete within the requested time, which is 10 seconds. So we can make use of the async to set a timer as to how much time you're giving to a particular task, and the task needs to complete in that particular time. So this can be used, in your deployment where you have very tight schedule that your deployment has to complete in 10 minutes or 20 minutes. You can make use of your async for that. Does it make sense?
Got it, Ravi.
Next is your run once. Now, there might be certain tasks which are common for all the servers. For example, fetching the timestamp or the current date and time. Now, by default, what will happen is that will get executed on all the machines. So for example, I'll launch one more machine for the sake of example here. So let's say this will be my machine 1, and let's say this will be my machine 2. Okay, so I have 2 machines now. So let's wait for that machine to come up. Okay, and let's quickly join this to Ansible. So, okay, just give me one moment. Okay, so let's check the connectivity. Ansible all -i hosts, and I want to do a ping. So this will tell whether I'm able to connect to all the machines or not. So this is one machine, this is the other machine. Okay, so I'm able to connect to both the machines. Just give me 1 minute, I'll be back. Sorry. Okay, sorry. So now let's okay, just so you know, all the examples that I've been showing you, I have those examples available in my GitHub repo. So here, let me share this repo with you. Yeah, so here I have all the examples. So, if you want to try out, you can keep this for reference. And don't forget to follow me on GitHub. But yeah, okay, so there's the link. All right, most of the examples are available there, whatever the concepts that we've been discussing about. Now talking about your run once, okay, let me guess. Okay, I don't have a run once example here, but let's say we'll write a new playbook. So, oh, sorry, my machine connection is gone. So let's open up a new session. This will be control IP. Let's connect to that. Okay, so we'll become the root user, and let's create a new playbook. So we'll call this as run. We can give whatever you want. Just make sure you're ending with the .yml extension. So 3 and then hosts. Hosts is set to all. Become will be set to true. Become method will be set to sudo. Now there's a typo. Let me correct that. Okay. So become method is set to sudo, and then we will have our tasks. Okay. So let's say the task is I want to capture the date and time. Okay. So just for the sake of example, but it can be any common task. So let's give it a name, and let's say we will say get date and time, and then let's run a command. Okay, so command, and the command that we want to run is, let's say, date. So this will fetch us the date and time. So let me save this. And let's execute this. So Ansible -playbook, my inventory file, and then the playbook. So what will happen is there's a syntax. Okay, I'm missing a here. So by default, what will happen is my task, you see, it will get executed on all the machines. But in this case, if you see, I don't have to get the date and time for all the machines. So imagine a use case of I want to capture the date and time when the deployment is starting. Now, I don't want to capture it on all the machines. I just want to capture it one time. That's all. Okay, just once. That's where we can make use of your run once. So here for that particular task, I can make use of this run once, and I can set this to true. And what will happen is my playbook will execute that particular task only once and on the first machine only. It will not execute it anywhere else. So you can see here, it executed only on one machine. It did not execute on the other machine. That's where we can make use of your run once parameter. So in some cases, there might be a need to run a task only one time for hundreds of machines, but only once. So this can be achieved by configuring run underscore once on a task. So you can set this to true, and this will force your task to execute only once. And on the first machine, it finds in the inventory file, and then the same result will be applied to all of the hosts in that particular inventory file. Does that make sense?
Yes, Ravi.
Okay. Next is your local action. Now, until now, we have been looking at how you can execute your playbooks on the remote machines, right? Now, there might also be a situation where you want to execute the playbook on the local machine itself. When I say local machine, on the Ansible machine itself. So that's where you have that possibility as well. So it may be useful to use a playbook locally rather than connecting to the remote machines over SSH. So if you want to run your playbook locally, so when I say locally on the Ansible machine itself, so what you can do is you just have to change your playbook. That's all. So in this case, I can, instead of setting this to all, I can set this to localhost. Okay, so here I can set this to localhost, or I can set this to 127.0.0.1, which is also localhost. And my Ansible will understand that it has to execute the playbook on the local machine. So in this case, what will happen is it will not read the inventory file. It will just look at the target that we have defined, and it will start executing that playbook on the local machine itself. So in this case, so you can see play localhost, right? So localhost was okay, and then the change. So now whatever we have given in the playbook, it will get executed on the local machine itself. So in this case, the local machine is our Ansible machine. Questions?
No, Rabi.
Okay. Give me one moment. Okay, so the next thing we have is a loops. See, now there might be a a use case wherein you want to install multiple packages. Now one option you have is you can write multiple tasks. Like let's say for example you want to install 4 packages. Now for that 4 packages we'll have to write 4 tasks. Now that can be difficult if you have like a step that needs to be repeated, like maybe let's say 50 times or 100 times. It becomes very difficult for us to write 50 tasks or 100 tasks for that. But that's where we can do a loop as well. Okay, so on a particular task. So this can be used when you want to install multiple packages, you want to create multiple users, you want to start multiple services. So whenever we talk about doing a particular task multiple times, we can make use of your loops. So Ansible also supports your loops, which can be used, like I said, creating multiple users or repeating a particular step for a certain number of times. We can utilize your loops for that. So here I have the example. So here, if you see the first screenshot, this is an older way of doing it, and this is a newer way. So this is the example that we are going to look at. And again, if you look at the GitHub, you should be able to see an example for that. So here you can see there is our example. So in this case, what are we doing? You can say I have only 2 tasks. This is one task. This is the other task. So instead, so you can see I'm installing multiple packages now. So instead of writing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tasks, I'm able to do it in one single task. So for that, we make use of this with underscore items keyword. And then here, if you see, I'm calling that. So it's like, doing a for loop. Okay, for items, start doing a loop. So a similar way for this particular items, I'm calling each of the item here. So what will happen is Ansible will take each of these item one by one and start executing that in your remote machines. Likewise, sorry. Here, if you see, I also have a loop for starting services. So we are starting 2 services, HTTPD and then Docker. Does it make sense?
Rabi. So will it show how many times it has installed?
Yeah, it will show, it will show for each of the task. When it is doing the installation, it will show for each of the tasks. I'll show you an example, but yeah, to answer your question, yes, it does.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, just a moment. Okay, sorry about that. I was just holding my son, so it was. I know you could hear his sound, so he wanted some attention. Okay.
No problem, Ravi.
Yeah. So. So we will create a new playbook and let's call this as loops. And let's start writing this. So hosts will be set to all, become will be set to true, method would be sudo, and then we will start writing our tasks. So here we'll say this is an example for loops, and then apt, the name of the package, we're telling item, and the state would be latest. And then here we will say with underscore items, the items that we want. So let's say I want Git, I want Java, then let's say I want Docker, then let's say I want Apache 2. So we are doing a loop now, right? So likewise, let's add one more task, and let's say this will start multiple services, and then again I will use service. The name of the service would be, again I'm telling to pick it up from the item, and the state would be started, and then here we will say with item. So what are your items? So one would be Apache and the other would be Docker. So we are doing a loop over here. So now let's execute this and loops. So like I said, whatever I've written, that's an old way. So you can see here we are getting a deprecation warning. So whatever you've written here, that's an old way of doing it. Okay. Could not find. Okay. Where's the other machine? Okay, so here it has failed. So I need to update the machine once. Just give me 1 minute. Okay, let me run the playbook once again. So here you can see that's 2 machines, and you can see here item. So Git, default JDK, Docker, Apache. So it is telling on this machine it's okay. That means the packages are already there. So I have not done anything. Now it is executing on the other machine, and it should show the status has changed. So now it is basically telling that I've looked at all the packages and it's okay status on this particular machine. So now you see, instead of writing 4 tasks, we are doing it in one single task via loops. Make sense?
Yes, Ravi.
Let's wait for this to complete. So like I said, this is an older way of doing. The newer way of doing this would be, this method, implementing this. Okay. Here, this is another option you have, specifying that you want to do a loop. That's another option you have. But there are different ways that you can implement it. So you can see for this particular machine, it says changed. So all the items. Now during the starting of the service, it has failed. So for Docker, you can see it was okay. But then when trying to do the Apache, it was not able to find the service. It's okay, but you can see now it is doing a loop. So we can do that also. Now you can also make use of your conditions. Now at any point, if you want to specify conditions, by default, your playbooks will get executed on all the machines. So let's say, for example, let me have one more playbook here, and let me grab example from here, maybe conditions. Okay. Now let's say this will be our playbook. Okay. And for now, let me comment this. So I have two tasks. Okay, so one is to install Git using apt, and then another one is to install Git using yum. Now let's try executing this. So Ansible -playbook, my inventory file, and the playbook. Now, if you see, the playbook execution will fail on when using the yum. Why? So you can see here yum, it's failing. Why? Because my remote machines are Ubuntu machines, right? So this is where we can make use of your conditions. So instead of failing the tasks, I can make use of the conditions. If the condition is true, my Ansible will execute the task. If it is not true, it will skip that particular task. It will not fail the task, it will skip that particular task. So here, that's where I have added this when condition. And you can see here, I'm telling when the OS family is Debian, execute this task. And when the OS family is Red Hat, execute this task. So that's where we can make use of your conditions as well. Now, if I execute this playbook, right, it would still fail, but my Ansible will skip it. So you can see it is skipping because the remote machines are Ubuntu machines. Now, from where did I get this? Any idea?
Ansible.
Sorry?
Idea.
From your system facts.
Okay.
Okay, so here if you see -m setup, and let's apply a filter for OS. So here you will be able to see this particular parameter. Likewise, so here you can see Ansible OS family. Likewise, you can use any of these for your conditions. Okay, so that's how we can implement your conditions to check. And if the condition satisfies, your Ansible will execute the task. If it does not satisfy, it will not execute the task. Is that clear?
Yes, Ravi. But it will show the results in the skipped status, right?
Correct. So in this case, if you see here, it was showing skipping because so when I say skipping, that means your Ansible is telling that, hey, the condition did not match for this particular machine. I'm not executing the task on this particular machine.
Yeah, the failed will be 0 because like nothing is failing here.
Correct. So by default, it will fail. But now because of the conditions, Ansible understands that, OK, the condition is not matching. I'm not going to execute it.
We got it.
Next is your register. Now, let's say I have a playbook here, register. OK, let's take this as an example. And for now, let me comment this. Let's execute this on all the machines, and let's say I want to check for Docker version. So Now let's say we have a requirement wherein we need to check what version of Docker is installed on the remote machines and what version of Git is installed on the remote machines. Okay, so I have to check that. Now by default, okay, let's execute this playbook and let's see what will happen. So here, if you see by default, your Ansible will simply say changed, 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 but it does not show me the actual output, right, for the command that we executed. So by default, this is the behavior. Now, if you want to capture the output of a particular task and then display it on your Ansible machine, we can make use of your register keyword. Okay, guys, give me 1 minute. My son is crying. Sorry. So often in a playbook, it may be useful to store the result of a particular task. So whenever you want to store the output of a particular task and display it in your Ansible machine, you can make use of your register keyword. So use of the command module in this way can in many ways eliminate to write site specific facts. For example, you can test for the existence of a particular program, which in this case, checking if Git is available or not, or if Git Docker is available, if available, what version is available. So the register keyword decides what variable to save a result in. The resulting variables can then be used in templates, action lines, or when statements. So basically, we execute a task, capture the output of that task, and then we can start using it in the Ansible machine, like for example, showing the output. Does that make sense?
Yes, Ravi.
So so that's where you have this particular playbook. So here you can see we're using the keyword register, and this is the variable name. So what I'm telling here is you execute this command, the result of this, store it in this variable, and then I am going to display that variable here. So debug the variable output. So debug will simply read the data from this variable. The same I'm doing here, register, capture it in this variable, and then read that particular variable for me. So now if I run the playbook once again, it will capture that output and show it to me. So now you can see here so for this particular command, here is my output. So you can see the Docker version that is installed. And then for the Git, there is my output. So now I can see what version of Git is installed on the remote machine, or what version of Docker is installed on the remote machine. This is one use case. Likewise, here is another use case you have. Now, let's say you want to see what all files you have in a particular directory, like, whether you have the latest package on the remote machine or not before doing the deployment, or you want to see whether a directory is empty or not. You can do that also. So that's basically what your register is. Make sense?
Yes, Ravi.
Next, we have your vaults. Now, vaults can be used when you're dealing with sensitive data. So let's say, for example, you're using some password or using some key pairs or any credentials, which is very sensitive. And if you don't want to keep those data in plain text, we can encrypt those data by making use of your vaults. So this is mainly used to keep your sensitive data, such as your passwords or keys, in encrypted files rather than keeping them in plain texts. So these vault files can then be distributed or placed in source control. To ensure this feature, we have this tool called Ansible-Vault to encrypt our data. So if you want to create a new file with encryption, we can make use of this file and command Ansible-Vault create and then your file name. If you want to edit an existing encrypted file, this will be your command. If you want to change the password for your encrypted files. This will be your command rekey. If you want to encrypt an existing file, this will be the command. If you want to decrypt an existing file, this will be the command. And the last command here you see, that is if you want to just read the data of an encrypted file, this will be the command. Okay, I'll talk about this in some time, but let's say, okay, I have this PEM file. Now that's a sensitive data, right? Anyone who has this data can use this data and connect to the remote machines. So I don't want that to happen. I want this to be encrypted, right? So I can make use of this particular command, Ansible-vault encrypt and then your file name. So here I will say, sorry, Ansible-vault, and then I will say I want to encrypt CR. So I want to encrypt and then your file. So this will prompt you for the password. So we will set the vault password and we'll confirm the password and done. Now my file is encrypted. So now if I try reading the data of this is what you will see. Okay, because my data is encrypted, so it follows your 256-bit encryption. Okay, so now my data is encrypted. So no one can read the data now. Questions until here?
No, Ravi. So how do we decrypt it? Like, if you want to see it.
So that's where you can make use of this particular command, Ansible-vault view, and then the file. This will prompt you for the password. You give the password and you should be able to view the data. So here I can say Ansible-vault view. This will prompt you for the password. We give the password and there is the original data. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Now, let's say now we have encrypted this, okay? And now let's try executing our playbook, okay? And you can see now this is failing. Why? Because the encrypted, the PEM file is now encrypted. So my Ansible will not be able to read that file. So what do we do? How do we tell Ansible to read that file? So what we can do is when we are passing this command, we can pass this additional flag, which is --ask -vault-pass. So that means I'm telling that, hey, there is a vault. Ask me password for that vault and I'll give you the password. And then Ansible will use that password, decrypt your whatever the file you have encrypted and then use it. So here I can use this ask vault pass. This will prompt me for the password. I'll give the password and then error. Okay, unreachable, permission denied. Why? Permission denied. That's interesting. Let's try this. Okay, so looks like oh yeah, right, true. See, even before that, it needs to connect to the machines, right? So that is what is happening here. It's not even able to connect to the machines. So I can show you a different. I can show you a different example. So let's say this particular file. Okay, so let's encrypt this. So Ansible-vault. Let's encrypt this file. We'll give the password, confirm the password, and now you'll see the file is encrypted. And let's go ahead and decrypt our PEM file. So we'll use decrypt. We'll give the password and this should decrypt it. Now let's say we will try copying this particular file. Okay, so let's comment out everything and we'll just have the copy step. Okay, just the copy step. So let's try executing this now. So again, like I said, by default, this will fail because we have set encryption. So this will fail. So you can see a vault password or secret must be specified to decrypt this file. So for that, we'll say, hey, ask me for the vault pass. So this may ask for the password, we'll give the password. It will use that password and perform the task for us. Make sense?
Yes, Ravi.
So whenever you're dealing with sensitive data, and if you don't want to keep it in plain text, we can make use of your Ansible Vault for that. Okay, I'm going to stop here. Tomorrow we will look at a few more things. And yeah, I guess I'll need 2 sessions to complete this. Okay, problem should be fine. So any other questions, guys, until here?
No, Ravi, all good for mine.
Cool. So we'll continue tomorrow. Thanks, everyone. And
Thanks.